So I just don't, I'm pretty stressed out. Because while we're doing these exams and the finals and stuff, it's like everything else normal, I'm still getting homework like I typically would on a nightly basis. So I don't make it a priority to study.
So you want me to calm down now?
No, it's not. It's literally not you. It's other classes, but I don't see how it's going to turn out hot for me.
Well, I'll try to hold off then until then.
This class is like easy.
Yeah, you're.
But I
get it.
Classes, we still get regular homework in this class every night.
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying more of a break from that, from this class?
I'm not criticizing you, but in AP Bio, our test is 6 days after the AP history exam, and we've already started studying. And Mr. Henry still has not finished the curriculum. I'm just saying.
Well.
I'm just saying.
Maybe COVID threw a spin into it. I don't know. Yeah. All right, so let's get through here. Okay, so mental process that elaborates and assigns meaning to the incoming sensory patterns, perception. All right, process which stimulates receptor eyes, ears, creates pattern neural messages. Okay, and that is given experience, sensation. The level of stimulus for a stimulus to be detected, absolute threshold, the minimal amount of change in a signal that is still recognizable, difference threshold. To be perceived as different, two stimulus must differ by a constant minimum percentage. Weber's law says that sensation depends on the characteristics of the stimulus, background stimulus, and detector signal detection theory. A sensory process that converts energy such as light, sound waves into the form of neural messages, transduction. The area of sharpest vision is the highest concentration of rods and cones, the fovea. Bundle of neurons that carries visual information from the retina to the brain, the optic nerve, the area that is located in the back of the eye where light is casted and rods and cones collects this information, the retina, refers to a reduction in sensitivity to a stimulus after constant exposure to it, sensory adaptation. All right, layers and photoreceptors of the eye. The sclera is the outer layer, white part of the eye, where muscles attached for eye movement. Retina, the inner layer of the eye, where photoreceptors are located. Choroid, middle layer of the eye, where blood vessels are located. Rods, photoreceptors that are specifically sensitive to dim light, but not. Oh, I forgot to bring up the pictures. Oh, I went down too far. Off work. All right. All right, so with the eye, A is the optic nerve, B, the iris, C, cornea, D, pupil, E, lens, F, retina, G, fovea. All right, I'm just going to roll through it real quick. All right, ear. Zoom in here. There we go. A, semicircular canals, vestibular sense, right? B, the bones of the middle ear. C, the auditory nerve. D, the cochlea. E, oval window. All right, that's that. Let's get through this. Did I have questions? Yeah, I did. Almost forgot. The bundle of neurons that carries visual information from the retina to the brain optic nerve. This is the place within the eye, the sharpest vision, fovea. Transparent layer forming in front of the eye, cornea. This part of the eye focuses light rays that pass through it, the lens. Thin circular structure in the eye that controls the diameter of the pupil. This part of the eye has color, iris. Okay, went through those already. 3 bones within the inner ear that vibrate to help receive sound is all the above, hammer, strap, and amp. Thin cone-shaped membrane that separates the external ear from the middle ear that vibrates to help receive sound, the eardrum. Bundle of nerve fibers that carries hearing information between the cochlea to the brain, the auditory nerve. Spiral cavity of the inner ear that produces nerve impulses in response to sound vibrations, cochlea. This is another name for the sense of taste, gustation. Another name for the sense of smell, olfaction. Sense of smell is related to what and is perceived where in the brain? Memory and emotion, the limbic system. This is a theory where people can block out pain by shifting their selective attention. Gate control theory. All right, the part of the pattern that commands attention or stands out, figure. Part of the pattern that does not command attention, simply the background, ground. Our minds fill in the gaps when we visualize missing segments, closure. Gestalt principle that we tend to group similar objects together in perceptions, law of similarity. Gestalt principle that we tend to group objects together when they near each other, law of proximity. Principle that we tend to group similar objects together that share a common motion or destination, law of common fate. All right, so anatomy of the eye, describe a person sees with your response, detail parts and functions of the eye. So you had to talk about how light shines through cornea, okay, through the pupil, which depending on the brightness of that light is contracted or expanded with the iris, that muscle. Obviously, we know the color is of the eyes in the iris. Okay, it hits the lens and projects to the retina, and the retina is where those photoreceptors are located. The most dense place where these photoreceptors are located is the fovea, and that is sending a neural impulse to the optic nerve, which is later sent to the visual cortex in the occipital lobe. All right, you guys good with that? All right, and then with the ear, how a person hears. So sound travels through the auditory canal, vibrates the eardrum, connected to the bones of the middle ear, which is connected to the cochlea through the oval window. And this vibrates fluid within the cochlea, interacts with the basilar membrane. Membrane sends neural messages to the auditory nerve. The auditory nerve sends information to the auditory cortex in the temporal lobe. And that's how we perceive sound. All right, is there any questions on that? You guys good? All right, I guess I forgot to release your scores. I apologize. I'll release that now. All respondents. There it is. Done. My bad. I forgot. All right, so today we're going to talk about consciousness. So I'm going to bring up the bell ringer so you have one so I can give you points at the end of the week. So what is consciousness? There you go. What is consciousness? All right, so what is consciousness? Sorry about that. What do we have? What do we got? Kim, what do you got? Okay, so what we think in our minds. All right, good. What else can it be? What else can it be? Sarah, what do you have?
I said it's a state where you're able to perceive the world around you directly, understand what's happening, and I also said that it's like the ego part of Freud's iceberg.
Okay, good, good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Glad you mentioned that. We're going to review that a little bit. Really, it's just our awareness, right? Okay, it's our awareness. So how we are aware of the world around us. So it's through sensation, our perceptions, right? And our judgments, what we're thinking of the current time, like you guys just stated. Okay, there's a lot of different, I can say, stimulus that are going on, which is in our conscious state and our awareness. And many people are still questioning how we measure consciousness. How do we do this? How do we understand it? Obviously, it occurs because we have to perceive the world around us. We have to understand the world around us. And setting objectives, plans, scheduling. This all goes on through consciousness. And like you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned the iceberg theory. And Freud, obviously, constantly trying to tap into the unconscious mind. There's many different things that we can accomplish. And if we do tap into this unconscious mind, what can the human mind perform? Like, what is its, I can say its potential. Okay. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the upcoming chapter. Yeah, consciousness is literally our awareness. Okay, what we are perceiving, what we're sensing, how we are thinking about, what we're thinking about a certain thing. When we're performing activity, how we're going to be performing that activity. All right, so I'd like you guys to open your books to page 183. And just going to read a short section here, and we'll move on. So we're going to talk about sleep as well, eventually. I know this chapter in the book wants to talk about it right away, but we'll get to it then. I'll have to put it on the back burner for a bit. Night terrors. Ooh, I get to talk about those. Anybody have any night terrors? No? Oh, my roommate in college used to get night terrors all the time. You wake up the whole room, the whole apartment. Heck, even our neighbors sometimes. It was scary. Real scary. I couldn't imagine what he was seeing and visualizing though. And perceiving as real. What's that?
It's 195.
Oh, 195. Oh yeah, sorry about that.
On the PDF.
In a PDF, yeah. All right, so let's read Exploring Psychology Together, Losing Sleep. Does anybody have that up yet? Yeah. Hannah, you want to read that?
In 1959, New York disc jockey Peter Tripp stayed awake for 200 hours to raise money for charity. After about 50 hours, he started having wild hallucinations, seeing cobwebs in his shoes when there were none there, and thinking that specks of dirt were bugs. By 100 hours, he became delirious and saw a doctor tweet suit as a tangle of furry worms. At 120, he needed a stimulant to keep him awake. After 150 hours, he was disoriented, not knowing who or where he was. He became paranoid. He backed against a wall, letting no one pass behind him. About 200 hours, his hallucination had taken a dizzy turn, and he thought a doctor trying to examine him was an undertaker coming to bury him.
Wow. I don't know. I don't know what charity that was for, but I don't know if I would want to do that. What do you think, Sarah?
If I got money out of
How much money would it take? Unbelievable. Campbell, would you do it? I wouldn't do it either.
I already got that. Well, maybe not. I already have some experience not sleeping.
50 hours, you said.
Probably not 50, but like going 2 nights without sleep.
How do you do it? Energy
A lot of
drinks.
Red Bull. A lot of Red Bull.
Hey, they give you wings, right? They give you wings.
Yeah.
Oh, they got sued for that.
The Red Bull gives you weight.
Yeah, the slogan. Now in the commercials, they have like 5 eyes in it instead of 1.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah, so I guess some person jumped off a building. I shouldn't laugh about it, but So they don't actually give you wings, and I guess family members do.
How can you even?
Exactly.
That's like, that's all I'm gonna say. Remember when a guy like beat another guy to death? Like he was kicking him and stuff, and he sued Nike.
Oh my
He
god.
sued Nike because he said the shoes were faulty.
Oh my
I
heavens.
swear, you have to look it up. That's an actual.
I'll have to look that one up.
Like he kicked the guy, like he had him on the ground, was like kicking the heck out of him, like literally to death, and they sued Nike.
Oh my gosh.
Like that's I thought that's something awful to laugh at. Like
It is
shoes are
terrible.
faulty, they made me kill a guy. Like,
Gosh, Sarah. You're staying up all night for 2 days straight, drinking Red Bulls, and now you're laughing about stories. Oh my god. But no, yeah, I only know that story because my buddy kind of works with Red Bull. It's pretty sweet, actually. He gets all this free Red Bull, and pretty cool. But he told me a story. I was like, what? There's no way. But with losing sleep, I thought that was an interesting story here. I mean, I don't know if I'd ever stay up that long, that's for sure. But if it was for charity, I don't even know if I'd try that. That'd be crazy. But we'll talk about a little bit of some disabilities and some ailments that might occur, especially with the conscious mind, with schizophrenia especially. Okay, I'm sure you know a little bit about schizophrenia and how this alters people's minds to think that people are always out to get them, that they're always trying to, that they're always under pressure in a way, and their anxiety levels are at extreme high, and that they don't have the ability to sleep because they're constantly thinking someone's after them. And it's unfortunate, especially if you know someone that's going through schizophrenia and different types of, obviously, mental disabilities like that. Yeah, I couldn't imagine staying up that late, but especially with staying up all night. And obviously, I think we all know that could alter someone's state of mind and even their physical attributes and their appearance. Okay, and they actually did some tests, I believe, during the Holocaust, Nazi Germany, these Nazi scientists wanted to see exactly how long someone could stay awake without sleeping and actually change their physical appearance. It just shows that we need rest. We need to recharge, and how that could really alter not only our mind, obviously, but our body, and how important sleep really is. And we'll get to sleep and obviously different types of stages of sleep in this upcoming chapter. So, all right. Real quick, I like you guys to read the bottom of 183, moving into 184. It's just really the consciousness. That's all I want you to read. Stop when it gets to why do we sleep. Whenever I get in this chapter, I think of Freddy Krueger. All right, so I posted a vocab for you guys. Once you finish that reading up, it shouldn't take too long. If you want to work on that for, I don't know, a few minutes, and then I'll get into the notes. I'll give you 2 minutes to work on that, 3 minutes, and we'll move on. Chapter 5. This might be the last chapter. I'll try to zoom through it, but we'll see. This might be it.
Will we have homework tonight as well?
Tonight? No. I'll try not to have any homework for you.
No, I don't want.
I do want to do the sleep journal, though. I think that would be cool if we have the dream journal, but we'll see. Some people don't dream at all.
All my dreams end with me dying.
What? Oh my gosh.
Most of them.
Sarah.
Like,
Do you have any
really weird.
reoccurring dreams, like reoccurring themes?
Yeah. Okay. It sounds really weird, but it's so weird because I understand it, but it doesn't seem like to make sense. Do you know when you're like looking at a microscope and you see like cells and they're kind of like
Yeah.
they're compartmentalized, you see the little boxes?
Yep.
Well, I had a dream. It doesn't make any sense, but it made sense to me. When there's like two of those little boxes, just black in the background, and then I was in one of them. Not like what I look like.
Help
like,
me.
It's like a little blob. Like I think it's like a fetus. I'm seeing myself as this little thing.
Oh my.
And then the boxes just split, and it kept splitting, and I was stuck in the middle one. And then I was like terrified and woke up. I've had that dream like 3 different, like that kind of like weird theme. I don't understand it, but it's like
That's interesting.
I don't understand how I know that I'm like a little ball, but I know I'm in one of the little boxes.
Oh
And it
my.
just like keeps splitting, and then it's like this huge. Yeah, write that in the dream rules.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. Oh my.
I don't remember most of my dreams. If a dream wakes me up, like if I wake up, like it scares me awake. Then
Yeah.
I remember, but usually I don't remember.
I used to have one of those smaller. I was in a local grocery store. It's now Redner's and Higgins. Well, Valley View, I guess. Well, I get this Higgins. And I guess it must have been right after Jurassic Park came out. And there's always velociraptors chasing me through the supermarket all the time. I don't get it. And my brother was like pushing me in the cart, like trying to run away. And like he would hit the one like pillar, and I fell out. And he would just kept running. And I was getting eaten alive. That one always
I
reoccurred
never
with
see
me.
myself dying.
Oh, really?
Like I think it's kind of weird. I heard someone say on a podcast before. It's like, you know, when you wake up in a dream, you never see yourself die. And I heard someone go in this like all depth, all in like explanation.
That's true.
Because your mind doesn't know how to like conceptualize that, because that's something you have experienced, like actually dying, and you
Ah,
don't know what happens after death.
yeah.
There was this whole like in-depth thing, but when I thought about it, I was like, I don't think like if
That's
you're
true.
You're like falling off a cliff.
You always wake up before you hit.
never like watch yourself splat.
Yeah.
Like you wake up while you're falling, or you feel like you're falling and you wake up. You
That's
don't
pretty
actually,
good.
Like, no,
Yeah, that's true. I never thought of that. Was that a Joe Rogan podcast?
no.
No. He always talks about that kind of stuff. Huh. That's interesting. You're right. Now you say it, I don't remember getting actually devoured by a velociraptor. All right. I guess that's good enough. I want to give you a little bit of time at the end of class here. I don't know how far I'll get, to be honest. So consciousness, process underlying the mental model we create of the world of which we are aware. So consciousness can mean a lot of things to many different people. We all know that, okay? We perceive the world around us a lot differently than obviously everybody else, than other people. Okay, and we talked about like color blindness. We talked about different forms of blindness in the last chapter, but it always doesn't mean that, right? It always doesn't mean maybe it's an inability or a disability. Maybe it's just how we perceive the world, okay, and how we make sense of the world around us, and really how we fit in to our livelihood, how we live, or how we fit into our own belief of what we're thinking, we're going through. I don't know if you guys ever listen to Jim Carrey anymore, his interviews. It's like, oh, how do you know you're alive? Like, how do you know really that what you're doing in life is worthwhile or meaningful? It's like, how are you pushing your life, or how are you pushing your boundaries? You guys ever listen to Jim Carrey a lot talk about some of these things? No? Well, he was a comedian in the 90s, early 2000s. I think even in the 80s, he has all of a sudden a switch to just really questioning the world around us, and really how we fit into it. So how do you fit into your world, Sarah? How does consciousness play into who you are? How do you think?
Gosh, I guess it's how well, I think what you're getting is like each person bases. I know we already learned about perception, obviously, but like what you've been through and what your life is like.
Yeah.
How you perceive things, and I read in the book I presented in English class that like your goals kind of orient that
Good.
stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, whatever my goals in life are probably orient how I perceive things. So, like, for me, that's probably going to college and getting, I don't know, some career in whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
And my goals obviously orient my perception. Well, I want to do good in school so that I can go to college. And,
Good.
all that.
Yeah, actually, let's do a assignment here real quick. How about you write down in like your journal or in your notebook, who do you perceive yourself as? What goals do you have? And obviously, that plays a role in who we are and how we perceive ourselves. And does our consciousness, our perception of ourselves change? Okay, so how does that change? So I know there's a lot to that there, but write that down in your notebook. So again, how do we perceive ourselves? What kind of goals do we have? How does goal setting altogether play into who and how we perceive ourselves? And does perception, our conscious ability, our conscious thoughts, do they change over time? Do they change over time? And many people have a hard time grasping that and really understanding who they are. So write that down. We'll go over here. We'll go over it. That was pretty good. I like that. Maybe they change daily. Some people, it might change within seconds, right? There's a disorder for that, multiple personality disorder. Wow. Well, Campbell, you finished up? What do you have?
For what? Which one? I don't know. You asked a lot.
Yeah, I did. Sorry. What about currently your perception of yourself?
Well, I just kind of said around Sarah's lines. Like right now, probably like student. Like that's like my biggest focus. Like I don't know, going to college.
All right, good. All right, so that's your goals, right? Good, good, good. Awesome. And do you think it can maybe change?
I said, yeah. I said because your focus changes as you mature, and obviously when you graduate high school, you're going to do yourself like environment you're in.
Yeah, good. Good job. Good job. So yeah, it definitely alters. It definitely changes when we're going through different phases in our life. Good. Sarah, what do you have?
I said like, well, obviously I said about school and stuff, but I feel like my fitness too is like something
Yeah, there you go.
I'm pretty aware of that. I said, like how I obviously, I guess how it affects my perception of myself. Like I run in the mornings because of that. I feel anxious when like due dates are approaching and stuff because I'm concerned about getting a good. Whereas another kid, well, not another kid, but like kids who like don't really care about school.
You don't have the
might not
priorities
be-
in order,
might
right?
not be like bothered by that kind of stuff. I might be focused on something else. But like for me, that I get anxious when I know I have like an essay due or an assignment due and it's not finished. But I'd say that like definitely controls your life pretty much.
Yeah.
Control your life.
Yeah, definitely, right? Good. Good job. Good job. So right now, student looking in college, right? In the college, but like you said, it definitely changes throughout the day, and changes almost within hours. Like you said, you're running in the morning. You're thinking about, obviously how you're going to try to get that workout in, and then it changes when fishing, right? Big fisherman, and then obviously you're in school now, so your goals change and alter even throughout the day of your consciousness perception of yourself. Good. And then, like you said earlier, we change our mindset and our goals when we move forward. I never thought I'd be buying a house and being, mowing the grass later. That's what's on my mind right now because I don't want it to get too long. And I got to get these stumps out of the yard too. Oh my gosh. I never thought I'd have to do that. But 10 years ago when I was in high school, the only thing I really, my priorities really were just sports, wrestling, football. It's like, oh, I saw myself as a football player. I saw myself as a wrestler. And then now it's like, what do I do with myself? Right? But especially with athletes, famous athletes that are professional athletes, what do they do after they're done with playing football or being a baseball player or basketball player? They need to find a new hobby. And many of those people have a hard time transitioning to, I wouldn't say normal life, regular life, but a 9-to-5 job, and how they're going to continue moving forward. Maybe it's when you become a parent, right? A mother or father, whatever, and how that changes your goals, how that changes your mindset. I know my one friend, when he had a kid, he totally changed. I can't even get him out of the house anymore, but he was always at my door looking to do something, and his priorities changed, right? His conscience changes. Kayla, what do you have?
Said I just perceive myself.
Okay. Awesome. Good job. Good job. Yeah. So goals and your personality, especially, that's something that I didn't get to mention earlier. Good. Hannah?
I just said perceive myself as a student, and then my goal is to go to a trade school.
There you go. There you go. Good. And we kind of already discussed it. We talked about it, how that might change daily, how that might change minute by minute, really, of who we perceive ourselves as. I know in the summers, I work at the USDA and I just mow grass. I don't have to think about anything other than putting gas in the mower and going to town on some yards. That's about it. So, and painting really. So it's really mindless. It's like kind of like a grunt worker in a way, a maintenance man. It changes real quick. Obviously, when I get to school, it's like, oh man, I gotta teach, gotta understand these new concepts and material, and my perception of myself changes. All right, so consciousness, the process underlying the mental model we create of the world of which we are aware. So, like I said, it's our awareness. Okay, it's our perception of the world around us, how we make sense of the world. It really plays into our memories, our emotions, our personality, goal setting, really scheduling, setting objectives. Okay, and like I mentioned, it's really our awareness of the world around us at the current time. And yeah, we can maybe look into the future, see exactly who we're going to be or what we want to try to accomplish, but everything changes. And I'm glad you said that, Sarah. Like you said earlier, with running, that changes your mindset within minutes, right? Within, well, I guess you say a half hour or so. I don't know how long it takes you to run 6 miles. How long does it usually take you?
Like 55 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad at all. That's good. Man, you look maybe training for a marathon.
I'm thinking about it. I was going to go run the 25K. That's obviously not a marathon, but it's over half.
Yeah.
I was going to run out the day of prom, but I got sucked into doing prom instead.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
It's a dirty German race. That's what they call it.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, my teacher in high school, she's a science teacher. She ran the Boston Marathon. What was it, 3 years ago? I think it was like the year after the Boston bombing. And my one wrestling coach did as well. And it's pretty cool seeing people how they, their hobbies especially, and that obviously fits into consciousness as well. My one wrestling coach, he was huge into wrestling. All of a sudden, he stopped coaching. Obviously, he wasn't wrestling anymore, and he got into bike racing. So he went to Leadville, and I don't know if you ever heard of Leadville. You should look it up sometime. It's an intense race. It's unbelievable. I think they have to ride a mountain up in Colorado. I forget how many, what the incline is of it, but I watch videos and people always wreck on it. It's scary, actually. It's really scary. But I think they do over 100 miles, not uphill or anything, but in like the Rockies, Rocky Mountain areas. It's crazy. All right, so the big challenge, one of the biggest challenges with consciousness is how do we measure it? How do we understand it? Okay, and we still really can't do that today. It's like, how do we try to measure what we're aware of at that moment, at that time? And we talked about some basic and historical approaches to psychology in the beginning of the class, in the beginning of the semester. You guys remember what they were?
What was the question?
The two, I guess, say the two main approaches to psychology. I guess you say the two. Wilhelm Wundt came up with one of them, and William James came up with the other one.
What letter?
Historical approaches. What's that?
What letter does it start
Of the approaches?
with? Yeah.
S, and the other one starts with F.
Oh, no, I'm trying to think.
I feel like I'm on Jeopardy.
Oh, like structuralism and functionalism.
Yeah, there you go. Structuralism and functionalism. Good job. And yeah, those approaches try to do their best to understand the conscious mind and how we perceive the world around us, but we really can't back it with science, can we? No. And with functionalism especially, that relied heavily on what? Do you guys remember? What did that rely heavily on? Oh no, sorry, structuralism. My bad. What does structuralism rely heavily on?
Is it more like the anatomical structure, or maybe not anatomical, but like, I guess breaking it down into its individual parts to understand.
Yeah.
Instead of like, as opposed to understanding the function.
Trying to understand more of like principles and establishing principles to psychology, almost like I said with the elements in chemistry, but introspection. That's what I was looking for. Introspection. So what's wrong with introspection? What is one of the cons with that? You guys remember? I know it's a long time ago. I get it. What's wrong with introspection? So introspection is really like in your laboratory setting. You're asking people questions about what they perceive. What's wrong with that? Does everybody have the same answer? Go ahead, Sarah.
Because in your laboratory setting, you're not. Well, first off, everyone's different, so it's not the same.
Good.
And also because people aren't acting natural.
Good job. Good job. Yep. So one of the biggest things is that everybody's perspective is a lot different, and their perception of whatever they're being tested or questioned on is going to be a different result or different answer most of the time. And they can't really measure that, obviously. Yeah, you can jot it down of what people perceive, but for the most part, everybody has different interests, different hobbies, different perceptions. And it's in a laboratory setting, right? Okay, so we talked about that earlier in the chapter. I just wanted to kind of review that with you. All right, so competing views. I already talked about it, structuralism and introspection. And then obviously I mentioned this as well, behaviorists. So John Watson, we talked about him a little bit. And we talked about Skinner, right? Not Leonard Skinner, but B.F. Skinner with behaviorist approach. So sought to take the mind out of psychology. After all, he argued there is no real way to see inside of it. Okay, obviously nowadays we have the ability to scan and use technology and understand the brain a little bit more and see the locations in the brain that are interacted with certain stimulus. And we went over that, 2 chapters ago now. But during that time, 1950s, moving even before that, they had no way of looking inside the brain and really understanding where this is being processed in different parts of the brain. And like I mentioned with introspection, oh, that's it. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So anyway, consciousness, how do you measure it? How do you understand it? Still today, we have no idea. Okay, we're getting closer, obviously, with the technology we have, but still very hard to accomplish. All right, there you go. That's all I got.